Hello and welcome. My name is John Hobby and welcome to the Great Poker Chip Adventure Desert Palms review, the China clay version. All right, there is a next gen version out there, but this is just the China clay version. You can see right here some details of it. This is meant as an introductory review for those of you not super familiar with poker chips. There are people who are going to roll into this video who have way more experience with poker chips and these companies than I do. Read the comments, you'll see sometimes they'll comment and they'll leave wonderful, wonderful information. So thank you guys in advance. Now, let's talk about Desert Palms. The first thing I always do is talk about quality control after we play a hand of Texas Hold'em. All right, let's get this shuffled here real quick. These are the Bicycle Rhapsody cards. Air cushioned finish, but they are just paper cards. I don't know how long they're going to manufacture these. They may have stopped for all I know. This is April 2015, and we're just going to expedite our shuffle. We're going to call that good. All right. Should I deal myself too? All right. This is my hand. You guys at home, shuffle your cards, grab the two off the top of your deck, and hopefully they're not the instructions, like bicycle cards. We'll see. All right, here we go. Here's the flop. Oh, snap. Somebody already has quads. It depends how many views this video gets, right? There'll be like 6 people watching this. Do you want to see what I have? You can't see what I have. I'll show you after. And finally, oh, there's not room. We'll put it right here. All right, we have a rainbow board here. We don't have any flush draws, no straight draws. There you have it. What do I have? Let's have a look. Oh, nothing. 6, 7, 8, 9. You see, short one card from a straight. So I had nothing. 9 high. King high, technically, but you guys know the jargon. All right, we'll put these cards away. Quality control. These are, here, let's get these down. These are a 30, they're 40 millimeter chip. So meaning the diameter of these chips are 40 millimeters. And they are roughly 9 grams. I'll throw up the quality control measurements of weight, width, and thickness right now. You can see for yourself about all these chips right here that you see in front of you. And the quality control is very, let's just dive into it. Some things that I've noticed right off the bat. Okay, I talk about spinners and flatness a lot. More of flatness in this case. Let's roll these in. When you squeeze the edges here, can you see all the gaps that open up? Like just huge gaps in between these chips. Is that showing up on camera? Anyway, they rock back and forth because they're just not flat. All right, that was the first thing I noticed, and that's what happens. That's the first thing I noticed with these chips, right? It's like, oh dear, because they're trying to mimic Paulsens with the text right here. Can you see that? So let's roll in a Paulsen here. Top hat and cane. No, let's use a classic here. All right. So Paulsen stamps in their chips, right? Paulsen chips with the little top hat and cane logo. And they try to mimic that with these China clays. And that's what throws off the flatness. All right. Is that a big deal? You know, compared to the other China clays that are readily available, such as Milano, you know, that's not a huge deal. Milanos aren't perfectly flat either. So very average for flatness for the China clay market. Hopefully we can see some improvements in China clays over the next 10 years. But we really need to start seeing some higher quality China clays, especially with Paulsen out of the game, right? Now, let's gather up some more of my mess here. That was awesome. On camera, I'm just going to leave that in there because it's awesome when I mess stuff up like that. The other thing we want to discuss is texture. The text on this, let me get a different one so you guys can see. The text adds a nice layer of texture. All right, obviously they're main competitors. I'm going to roll this in a lot. Milanos didn't have consistent texture. Do you remember in that review? Some of them had this wonderful texture and some did not. Whereas the Desert Palms, the China clay version, there is a next gen version of this. I'm talking about the China clay version. They all are very consistent and they all have that stamping on them. It's not like they're just outright missing that text right there stamped into the chip. So as far as its competition, it's above average when it comes to consistency, the quality and the consistency of the texture on the chip. And as far as the materials, I mean, I want to discuss some materials, but they feel like they are the same material as the Milanos. That's just my impressions, all right? That's not scientific. I didn't do an analysis of exactly what they're made out of, what chemicals they're made out of, but they have that, you know, plasticky, maybe slightly clay feel to them, right? Obviously not compared to the texture of a Paulsen, the materials used in Paulsens. So texture consistent and inlay. The inlays, you'll notice, I'm just going to start laying some of these out as I show you them, but the inlays are lined up. Now watch as I flip through all of these. You'll notice that the edge marks are up here, and the number right here, the denomination is lined up with this bottom edge mark. Here's the 5,000 right here. Okay, here's 100, you can see. So that's very good. Very good meaning average, because competition tries to do the same thing, you know, not perfect, but they do a pretty good job lining them up, as are these. They're not perfect, but at least they made an effort, you know. Here's the $10. And the inlays were all here. So out of all of these chips you see here, not one was missing an inlay. Not one had an inlay that was completely out of whack. These were actually some of the better China clays I've had. The Milanos, actually, if you go back and watch that video, I have a picture in that video of a Milano sticker inlay coming out. And I just call them inlays just for consistency. Like I said, this is a beginner's video for poker chips. So yeah, they're stickers, inlays. I use them interchangeably. You've already seen the $2. And you'll notice that there's, we'll talk about that in design. And edge marks, finally. The edge marks mimic those of clay chips, right? So they're not perfect, but they're designed that way, so they're very average in that sense. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, Paulsens, for example, are kind of the standard. However, they are discontinued at the moment. And you'll notice that they are compression molded. And when you're compressing clay, you get these artifacts on the edges, right? It looks like it's been compressed. And so they're trying to mimic that with these. And many China clays also go a different form of compression molding. And you get similar artifacts in these, all right? So far then, it's very average, slightly above average when you're talking about the texture compared to the Milanos. But everything else is very, very standard here. Now we're getting to some of the lower denominations. And you'll notice, see, here's one that's not perfect. It's kind of lined up, but it's not perfect. But at least they made an effort, right? You flip it over, and it's, you know, slightly better. It's slightly better than the other side. And once we get to these low denominations, and we'll talk about denominations here in design, you'll notice they're just missing edge marks. But again, that texture and text are all there. So quality control, overall, very average. The shoulders are consistent, and they are slightly round. They're not, I would describe the Milano edges as being beveled, whereas these edges I would describe as slightly rounded, all right? So they're not square. Let's see if we can get this stack lined up here. Nope, I can't. Anyway, see if it shows up on camera. But like the edges are slightly rounded. Maybe you might call it the tiniest little bevel, but it's slightly rounded, all right? That's how they feel. The Milanos seem like they have kind of more of a bevel on them. Let's see if we can show you here. See how they look like they have that bevel on them? Slightly larger bevel than the Desert Palms. And if you compare those to Paulsens, I'm sick of looking at those 25s. Let's grab a stack of 1000s here. They have square shoulders. So notice how square these shoulders are, right? Nice sharp edges. All right, just a comparison so you can know what I'm talking about. But we're talking about quality control and consistency. The shoulders are consistent, all right? So quality control overall average. Now let's jump into design. The first thing we always talk about in design, we talk about denominations. All right, Nile Club has some awesome denominations like $2.50, $3. These have some interesting ones like 5 cents right here. And one of the things you always want to consider when you're purchasing chips is, do they have the denominations you want? If you're going to do cash games and you want a 5-cent chip, there you go. But if you need a 250, you'll probably be looking at something like the Nile Club or custom chips. Desert Palms, here's the 5, the 1, and the 25-cent. So those are the denominations. Go online, just Google it, and you can see if there are any other options out there. These chips are loosely based off of the design of the Mirage chips. And if you compare them to other chips that are derived from the Mirage chips, like the Desert Heat right here, these are a metal insert chip made by Claysmith. I like Claysmith products like the Milano chips, but I'm just not a big fan of the metal insert style chips like this Desert Heat, all right? And you can see here, again, the Mirage had influence here on the design of this chip, as well as the Desert Palms. You know, which one do I prefer? Just because of the texture and the weight, I like the Desert Palms because there is no metal insert in these chips. Now, I should address this now. There is this, I would say, misconception for a lot of new chip purchasers, all right? People who are in the market for poker chips, they associate weight with quality. That's not the case in the poker chip world. For example, Paulsens are around 10 grams, and this is the company that makes chips for many of the casinos. So 10 grams is much less, well, not much less, but less than the cheaper chips. These are 11.5 gram dice chips, all right? Metal, because there's a metal slug in here. So just, remember that weight in the poker chip world isn't correlated with quality. And you can see that with, for example, these chips right here. I'm just going to throw this in. We're talking about design, but this kind of also ties into quality control. You can see all the extra plastic from the manufacturing process here. These edges are sharp and they feel rough when you pick them up, and when you rub your finger across them like this, you can feel all the imperfections in it. It kind of digs into your finger. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like these. They are very inexpensive though. Now, with that Mirage kind of look, you can see they have a white one. You can see the colorations here, pretty basic. You'll notice that the palm leaves change color with the chip. So on the 25 here, green palm leaves, green chip. The 500, purple palm leaves and purple chip. Now some of them, like the yellow and the orange, for example, I'm not a huge fan of these because they blend in too much with the background. I wish they would put a shadow or a black outline around those, right? But they didn't. So, not my favorite, but it's not distractingly bad, right? When you're playing a game, that's ultimately what it is. Now, I'm going into some pretty fine detail here in these reviews. Just remember that these are poker chips and they're not jewelry, all right? Each one of these, you can expect to have a little bit of character. One of the inlays may be slightly offset, but it's not going to be like something you look at and study every time you play, because you're going to be focusing on the cards, other people, tells, all of those things. So the poker chips come in second, right? Unless you're somebody like me who just likes poker chips and you come out to your poker table just to play with your poker chips, right? So there you have it. Something else about design. It does unfortunately have dollar signs. Can you see that? Sorry to all of you Eurozone UKers with your precious pound and the Eurozone with their precious euro. It's $1. So now design, I'm going to say slightly above average. Compared to what? Well, the Milanos also have a very reasonable design. I really like the Milano design, but I like it because they fill two different genre roles here, really. This is kind of more of a laid-back Polynesian style Mirage tropical look, whereas the Milanos are a more formal look. So I like it that we have some options out here in the world, all right? So slightly above average design. Materials. Materials feel exactly like the Milanos, all right? These come with kind of a burnt smell to them, like burnt plastic. And if you remember, I talk about the two chipsets before the Desert Palms that smelled. The Milano smelled like burnt plastic, and the next gens right here smelled like melon juice. What on earth, melon juice? Yep, I suspect somebody who was shipping them, somebody at the factory must have been drinking some sort of melon juice and spilled them on my chips. I don't know. Nobody's commented saying that their next gen smell like melon juice, but whatever. So this is the third set that had a unique smell to it. All right, burnt plastic smell. It's not quite as rich, or not. It didn't linger quite as long as the Milanos, but there still is kind of a smell. Can you smell it? There still is kind of a smell of burnt plastic. Probably just manufacturing. But I found out with the Milanos, it decreases greatly with time. So I've had lots of these in circulation for over 6 months. Circulation meaning we play with them, craps and poker and various other things, just recreationally with play money. And the smell has gone down a lot. I opened up some new Milanos. I had some packages I hadn't opened, and they still, and these still smell. But something else I should bring up now while we're talking about materials. There are people out there that like to oil their chips. Now, I'm going to try to show this. I'm not sure if this is going to show up on camera, but let's see if it does. The chips on the left, I did not oil, but they're broken in, okay? And the chips on the right are pretty fresh out of package. So you can see there's still this white kind of dust, like this factory dust on these on the right-hand side. Whereas the ones on the left have, female lotion on it. They have everybody's sweat and grease from our fingers. And there is a difference in the appearance. And so people want this look right away. And so they'll get mineral oil, whether it's laxative or baby oil. And they'll put mineral oil on their chips, very tiny amounts. And they'll rub them on there and try to expedite this look, all right? Do I do that? No, I don't do that. I think it's a little unnecessary because they're going to break in anyway. I personally don't do it. If you do, leave a comment, tell us why. It's a never-ending debate about, oh, well, the oil's going to attract dirt. Well, these have some of these chips even smell like lotion that some of the girls we play with use, right? And they don't attract dirt. Like, there's not huge black smudges of just grime on these chips. So the desert palms share the same material, and I would suspect that they share that as well. However, one of the differences is this texture is deeper. So with this text, it seems like it may be more likely to attract some dirt and grime. That looks like a manufacturing imperfection. Some of the brown from the edge mark, it looks like. And it might attract a little bit more grime. So you might get some thumb grease down in this text, all right, over time. Something to consider. But they do have a nice feel, like I said, plastic, similar to the Milanos. So if you have a Milano sample set and you're thinking about getting these, they feel very similar. And as usual with poker chips, I always discuss lead. China clays are usually pretty good about lead. However, they don't publish, with this set, they don't publish information saying, we guarantee these are lead-free. So as usual, just wash your hands, before you eat something. Don't put your Twinkies on your poker chips, or the owner of the poker chips will get mad at you for getting grime and sugar and gunk all over their chips. Bad idea. So, just common sense, things like that. I'm not terribly worried about it. I would wish, and I'm going to keep on ragging on the industry until this happens, I wish they would publish materials information. If there's hazardous materials in these, I wish they would just come out and say, whether they're required to by law or not, hey, these are 100% lead-free. Or like some custom chip manufacturers, they'll come out like with custom blanks and they'll say, these contain brass, which contain lead, and then there you have it. You know that they contain lead. You know to wash your hands. Done. Easy to do, right? But we don't get that with a lot of stock chips. One company that does do it, Chipco, still on materials here. Chipco comes out and says their ceramics, like these Tiki Club, are 100% lead-free. It says right there on their website. Thank you, PGI. Did I say Palm Gaming? The company that makes these is called PGI. I don't know what I said. If I misspoke, I misspoke. People will leave comments, I'm sure. But PGI, the people who bought Chipco, do great with transparency, right? Or at least on their ceramics. Lead-free. All right. Sweet. There you go. Put all the Twinkies you want on these. I'm kidding. Don't put Twinkies on my chips. They're not cheap. They're hard to, there's so many of them. It can be annoying to clean. All right. Materials, I'm going to give them average for the segment, meaning the China clay segment. The materials are just average, all right? Compared to the metal insert chips, they're above average. Compared to Paulsens, they're below average. Unless they're lead-free, which they don't say, then they would be above average. But just, it's just this non-stop, endless debate that rages forever and never will end. So I'm going to give them average because the competition, the Milanos, are very competitive. Durability and wear, unless you abuse them, like you guys see. Oh, look at all this. I just got tons of stuff like this kicking around here. Look at this. Shot with a 22. Shot with a 45. Put through a blender. Look at those chips. So, I've put a huge amount of wear on these. And one of these chips, I've dropped on concrete intentionally several times. And it did show some interesting wear. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Oh, here it is right here. Okay. So this has been dropped on concrete. And you can see the dents and chips on this chip. This is just manufacturing. Or is that a chip? Maybe that is a chip. Anyway, so they're not indestructible. These are pretty durable, but remember that you can break them in your hands. This one actually was broken when I was throwing chips onto my craps table. So you don't want to get huge stacks and throw them on top of desert palms because they can potentially break. But that's no different than the Milanos. The Milanos will break as well. They're just as fragile. Like I said, the materials are very similar, if not exactly the same. So that's kind of what you expect with China clays. Now, the materials, again, we're going to talk about this again because it's China clay. China clay is a nickname for kaolinite. Kaolinite is a type of clay that's found, guess where, predominantly in China. And see, next gens break as well. You can see these don't have a metal insert. Generally, metal insert chips are a little bit more durable than non-metal insert chips. ABS is actually a pretty strong material because they have the 3 nitrogen bond. And you know what? I'm not going to talk about the chemistry of it. So it is UV sensitive though. The China clays, can be slightly fragile. Materials, I'm going to give, I didn't finish my kaolinite discussion. So many people refer to any clay style chip made in China as a China clay. Other people are looking specifically for kaolinite. If you use kaolinite in it, technically that's a China clay because that's the type of clay you're using. The desert palms, I suspect, are both. I suspect they use kaolinite and they're made in China. That's 2 strikes. All right, done. China clay, double over, right? Twice over, they're made in China with China clay. So just so people know, be educated about what's going on out there. That's all it means. Like technically you could use China clay and make a chip here in the United States, but you wouldn't probably brand it as a China clay chip. Just some thoughts there. Anyway, materials, very average for the segment. Durability and wear. Oh, that's what we were on, durability and wear. Very average for a China clay. There's nothing miraculous about this. It's not like it's made out of titanium or anything. Competitive options. All right, and this is where it gets interesting. Obviously, the middle class chips. All right, we're going to talk about chips. For a set of 300 desert palms, you're looking in the neighborhood of 120 to 150. It all depends, and shipping and taxes thrown in there, it can vary greatly. Read the description below and you can see where I purchased these. Now, some things here. These desert palms are harder to find than the Milanos. That's one of the things I love about Claysmith is they produced a chip, a China clay chip that's readily available. So in 3 years, you can buy additional denominations. You can expand your set. You can get another set, right? These are everywhere. You can get these on Amazon, anywhere. The desert palms, and if they're out of stock, they usually get a lot in real quick, all right? Desert palms are not like that. Desert palms are, I've only found a couple of retailers, online retailers that will sell these, the China clay version, not the next gen version. And sometimes they're out of stock, and they're out of stock for long periods of time of certain denominations, and it gets pretty annoying. These are a little bit more exclusive than the Milanos. Okay, now that can be a huge deal. If they have the denominations you want in stock, then these are a viable option. And I would say, if you're looking for something slightly more exclusive, these may be a better option than the Milanos, with that stipulation of looking for something more exclusive. But these are middle class, all right? So we're talking between $100 roughly and $150 for a set of 300, all right? So what else fits in that category? Well, we have 2 ceramic options. Well, we have 2 China clay options. Then we have 2 ceramic options that can roughly be in that price range. And everything changes. This is April 2015. We have the Scroll poker chips. And we have the Nile Club poker chips. Here's a sample set. You know what? Let's grab actually the 5s. All right. So let's see if we can get these front and center. So we're looking at Nile Club, Scroll, Milano, Desert Palms, and I'm looking at my table. What else is in that price range? Well, a lot of these other chips are less expensive, and the Paulsens are more expensive. I have 2 other sets of ceramics here that are way more expensive. So does this represent the whole middle class? There's 4 sets of chips. There's probably a couple others that I'm not interested in, so I didn't buy them, but Milanos, Desert Palms for clay. Oh, there are a couple other retailer-specific clays, or China clays. And these 2 ceramics. So these were the 4 that interest me in the middle class. Is that it? I think this segment of chips we're going to see grow the most in the next 10 to 20 years, because this is what a lot of people are interested in. Easily, $100, $120 for a set of 300 for a nice set of China clays. Yes, that would be great. So again, more affordable ceramics, that would also be a huge help to the poker chip market. But I think this is the step in the right direction, all right? So those are the similarly priced competitive options. Let's talk about a step down. So let's say you look at these, you're not too impressed. You bought a sample set. You're like, I don't really care for the feel. And you have a sample set of, let's say, Monte Carlo. Okay, and these are metal insert poker chips, sticker, okay? You don't mind the feel. You like the extra weight and you just don't care, but you like the look of these. And you're like, all right, well, I like these and I can save some money getting these. These are going to run you between $50 and $70 for a set of 300. So they're roughly half the price of the Desert Palms. Roughly. Well, with shipping, it just varies. And these are a heavier chip. Again, like I told you I don't like these, but for the materials and the manufacturing and the quality of them. But if you like them, there are a whole bunch of metal insert chips that are much less than China clays. Monte Carlo, Desert Heat, the Claysmith makes a variety, the Mint, there are various other ones. You're also talking about interesting things like coin inlay chips. I have a review of these. You can go watch that. And let's see, Poker Nights. I mean, it's just endless, right? There's an endless, seems like, supply of metal insert chips. And you can tell they're metal insert because they'll weigh between 11.5 to 14 or 15 grams in some cases. See how there's that glare off of that coin inlay? Anyway, you can go watch that video if you want. Then, if you want to go above the middle class, so you're looking for some really high-end chips, some really awesome ceramics, Nevada Jack. Look at these blue ones. Look at that artwork. Interesting, albeit maybe a little bit vulgar. Interesting chips there. Other nice ceramics. Kind of the stock Tiki Club right here, made by PGI again. And, inevitably, we have to roll in, yes, Paulsens, all right? Top Hat and Cane, discontinued, unfortunately. I'm rolling these in because I want to make one point. If Paulsen comes back out to the consumer market with chips, those will be the high-end chips again, all right? Very expensive, $1.30, $1.20 a chip. Very expensive. Sets, all right. That covers competitive options. Cost value, I would say these are a great value for the quality you get. I can recommend these if they have the denominations you want in stock and the quantity you want. Absolutely get them. If you can't, Milanos are a good bet for China clays. And then there are some other retailer-specific China clays. And you'll see those as you search through all the retailers. And so that's where I draw my conclusion. Desert Palms, recommended. Know what you're getting into. Oh, one thing I didn't mention in quality control, the thickness was pretty good, But like the Milanos, these have a thickness issue when I put stacks of 20 next to each other, of the 50s and the 25s. I'll roll in a picture of this edge right here, but you can feel a difference. It's a minor difference, and most of my stacks never go above 20. So a slight thickness issue like that's not going to matter. But I recommend you always order a sample set of this. And if you're interested in another set, like Milanos or even ceramics, get a sample set of those as well. Scrolls are probably my favorite ceramic in this price range. Now, let's do things and talk about things that don't influence my purchase decisions, but people like to talk about. So, catering to the masses here, let's talk about some things. Number one, shuffling chips. All right. Shuffling chips, let's make sure I don't have the damaged one in here. I'm pretty sure I do. Shuffling chips, I mean, chips shuffle, all right? I mean, it's not hard to shuffle chips. I mean, you can do it, you know, with the inexpensive chips. You can do it with dice chips. And it's not like a decision, you know, I'm not going to buy chips because I'm like, oh, these are easier to shuffle than these. It doesn't matter, all right? But somehow people like to discuss it. So can you shuffle the desert palms? Yes, absolutely, you can shuffle them. Does it matter if one's broken? I doubt it. It's like the Paulsens when you break them in. Or like when, last time I was in Vegas, it's like shuffling some of those chips in Vegas are all dinged up from throwing them out in the craps table. These would probably get some little dings in them too if you're throwing them on a large craps table. If you have a small craps table, then it probably doesn't matter. But like those huge aircraft carrier ones they have in Las Vegas that are like 13 feet long, yeah, those are intense. Wow, anyway, yeah, so they have a nice texture and feel to them. Easy to shuffle, okay? And speaking of that, there is a lady that we play with. She's the one who hated the Monte Carlo. She called them shiners because of this holographic bling around the edge. And she also hated these because of the glare. You couldn't see what denomination it was. So she loves these. These are her favorite chip. And there's another person we play with, and these are also his favorite chips, all right? So these are pretty popular with my group of friends. They like these more than the Milanos. They describe the Milanos as how formal casinos want you to think their patrons are, where this is really what people are, right? They're wearing shorts, they're wearing t-shirts, they're not dressed in tuxedos, okay? That's kind of how they described it. I thought that was an interesting analogy. And finally, we talk about sound. Oh dear, okay, who cares about sound? A lot of people do, okay? I like ceramics. All right, let's start scientifically here. We're gonna start with the competitive options in its price range. So we're gonna do some ceramics here. Let's roll in, sick of looking at those, let's roll in these. And where are my Nile Club? Okay, so these represent the middle class chip right here. And let's see how they sound, all right? So we're gonna start with Desert Palms. There you go. Wow, it's like they're made out of the same material. No, China clay sounds similar. All right, ceramics. Like I said, if you're interested in these two or you don't know the difference, order sample sets. Next, Nevada Jack. There you have it. Now, let's do the segment below. All right, so this is the low-class chips, the cheap chips that you can get for not a lot of money. And this is just a representation. Ooh, next gen. Ooh, dice chips. All right, I think this will be an interesting variety of sounds here. No metal insert. Next gens. These are the Claysmith metal insert chips. The famous dice chips, some of the cheapest chips manufactured, except for except for those bicycle ones, but these are the heaviest chips I own. These are 9 gram chips, and these are 15-gram chips. Poker Nights. Metal insert chip. All right, now we're moving into the higher end chips. Let's start with ceramics. These are still available. Tiki, made by PGI, and Nevada Jack. Did I already do Nevada Jack? I don't remember. All right. And finally, let's just do Paulsen. Paulsen's kind of the standard, so we'll do this, even though they're discontinued. The aristocratic thwomp of a Paulsen, right? There you have it. I give you the Desert Palms. Make your own decisions, please. If you're deciding between these and another set, if you got it narrowed down to 2, good for you. And I recommend just getting sample sets if you've got it down to 2 sets. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. We are going to draw some conclusions here in not too long and continue the Great Poker Chip adventure. What is next? Let me think. I believe the Tiki Club are next. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in a couple of weeks with the Great Poker Chip adventure. I have something else lined up for next week. So I'll see you then.